Thank you, Nick. What's going on, everybody? Happy that Nick so operatively called this. We need to talk about baseball apparel, the king of hyperbole, Nick Pollock. But again, we have Renee Dechert here, who writes for Pitcher List as well as Purple Row, just baseball media, and is an English professor, which is super cool. And Kenny Tevelowitz.
It's a lot less glamorous than you might think. Let me just add that.
Someone from the humanities majors, history major. I appreciate the art very much. And Kenny Tevelowitz, who, as Nick said, is the owner and founder of Rotowear, which is a great company, great Twitter account. You see half of Major League Baseball wearing his apparel every single day of the year, and it's pretty amazing to be in that position. But again, so many places to go with this, and I want to start where Nick had us starting with retro jerseys, especially with an article that Renee wrote for Pitcher List this season about the Diamondbacks teals and how purple and teals, and how they kind of had this massive impact, it felt like, on the way the team performed down the stretch, and that like age-old adage that we heard originally from famous Deion Sanders: if you look good, you feel good. If you feel good, you play good. And that bore itself out on the field in a way.
Yeah, it was. I'm sure you remember the D-backs were very, very hot, and then right after the All-Star game, they got cold and they lost a lot, and they lost 10 in a row. And then they had an anniversary weekend where they pulled out their retros and they won a series against the Padres, and it really changed the momentum of everything. And I talked to the players about it. So after they finished that series in Phoenix, they went to Denver. And that's whenever I talked to them about it. And it was a really interesting vibe, because you could tell this is a really fragile team, right? I mean, maybe they turned the corner, maybe they hadn't turned the corner, and the retros were on everybody's mind. And it was really interesting. You know, the morning before, Zach Gallen had tweeted the Twitter poll. It had 15,000 people voted it. 91% said, yeah, we really have to do this. And I mean, everybody in the clubhouse except Merrill Kelly, which is an interesting story. Every player in the clubhouse was in favor of doing this. And it was a really interesting moment to catch, because when you talk to players, one of the things you realize is, with all of their superstitions and stuff that they have, what they wear really matters to them. Yeah, I mean, I know that sounds like the most obvious thing in the world, but it's their work clothes. And they all had sort of different things that they like and don't like. And so that was really interesting. And the color, the history, the momentum, it was a very interesting conversation to have with players. And Torey Lovullo tied it back into, you know, what do you call it, an old school uniform where players used to show their guns off. And somebody asked Torey, they said, did you show your guns off? And he goes, no, I was never that kind of guy. Right. But it was a great time to be there.
Yeah, I think it's even funny because I feel like the old jerseys, especially the 80s and 90s, were kind of the peak of athletic wear. And you see so many fans and even players in the game now, like, kind of strive to look for those types of like vintage clothes. And we've regressed so much from licensed sportswear since then. And to see the players respond to it in such a way, I think was kind of unique and special.
One of the things that was interesting, I think, like, they were the old uniforms, because the players said the material was different. Merrill Kelly and not Merrill Kelly, Christian Walker and Zach Gallen both said it was not made out of a sort of modern material that was efficient with, you know, moisture wicking and that kind of thing. And so that was sort of interesting as well. But all of the players loved it. And I asked I don't know if you saw on, I can't remember the name of the site, but Paul Lucas's site, the Rockies have officially retired their black vests. And if you want to get in an argument with Rockies fans, you should ask them about the black vests, right? But at the time I was asking the D-backs about their vests, I asked the Rockies about it too. And all of the players were like, yeah, we need to bring those vests back. But my understanding is it's like a manufacturing thing. They're just not going to make them anymore. And that's too bad.
It is too bad. That vest is cool. I think I saw that same blog you're referencing. I think it said that was the end of the vest. Like, that was the last Major League Baseball vest jersey. Kenny, in response, are you going to come out with a Rotowear vest maybe for the year to commemorate the end of the vest?
Maybe a Justin Mason vest.
Yeah, right, Justin Mason vest. But I haven't actually had the stat here, Renee. The Diamondbacks had dropped under 500, and from when they wore that purple jersey, they went 26-19 the rest of the year, and then pushed the World Series, which was amazing.
I wish that they had. I wrote about it. I really thought they should bring him back for the World Series. I thought it would be so cool if they showed up with them in the World Series, and nobody cared, right? But it just has, players become attached to uniforms, fans become attached to uniforms. They've got real stories that go with them. And I think that the people who manufacture them and spend the money don't really care. I don't know.
I'd heard a story recently. I forgot where I heard it from, but that there was a change in management from the Diamondbacks from the last couple of I think the last decade. And that's why they wanted to push the teal aside and bring in the new to kind of push the new, but still objectively a poor fashion choice, no matter who's in charge.
Merrill Kelly has thought about this, right? Merrill Kelly hates the red jerseys. Almost all of the D-backs hate the red jerseys. And Merrill Kelly's thinking was that they wear them in spring training. They should leave them in spring training, and they should stick with the teals and the other colors after they leave spring training. And I had never sort of really put that together. But if you look at them, their spring training unis and the red are pretty similar. So I think with the updates they've made that they released right after the World Series, that's going to improve a bit. But if you want to get Merrill Kelly's feelings about something, ask him how he feels about the red uniforms, because he's thought about it.
It's nice. It's very cerebral of Merrill. Good starting pitcher there too. Also, the Marlins bring back their teal jerseys this year. Another team that had their best season in years on a jersey that I think if you look objectively between the jerseys the Marlins have worn through the years, especially the horrific age of orange and black, this was their best iteration of jersey, their best colorway. Kenny, do you feel that when people maybe reach out to you or you're in your own creative process designing clothing to sell, do you see that people kind of clamor more for some of those old, more vivacious, to lack of a better term, colorways, or do they want what's modern and what's here?
I think it definitely gravitates more toward the old school looks. I mean, people gravitate kind of toward what looks better, and especially with the Marlins case, I mean, those jerseys, and I like the current jerseys to be honest, but those throwback teal ones are they're gorgeous, and they won 2 championships with it. Why would you not use those? Yeah, I don't think they should have ever moved away from them.
Same with the D-backs with that championship. I just happened to be in Arizona this year, and I went to one of the World Series games. It's funny for an organization that has had so much turnover, and just there hasn't really been this mainstay star for Arizona. They won that championship, but Luis Gonzalez was gone immediately. Schilling and Randy Johnson were something of mercenaries. So when you're at a game, you see such a swath of jerseys that I feel like most organizations, you won't even see that. And in that, the mix of colorways, it's just strange for a team, especially relatively newborn franchise like the Diamondbacks and the Marlins, to go away from what worked technically.
Mm-hmm. And they won a championship in those jerseys too. Yeah. It's just, I don't know. I love the colors of those, and especially when I heard that they were going to update their jerseys this year. I got excited that they were going to go back to those, and then it's it's going to be teal, and it was just, it wasn't the throwback ones, that's for sure.
Yeah, no, definitely not. And you have another team that went back to it after literally a decade of fans begging for it. Was the team I support and team I spent time covering, the Mets, and they brought back their black jerseys that were so intertwined with a very fun era of Mets baseball between the late 90s and then a break in the early 2000s, but then the middle of the 2000s where there was some success, consistent playoff appearances. Yeah, shots of players like Mike Piazza wearing these black jerseys and getting big hits. And it took years and years of fans clamoring, and now they've actually brought them back into their main rotation of jersey, which is something that you kind of feel it, especially, again, going back to the Diamondbacks, that these people who watch the games and players on these teams do have a bit of an influence, and it goes back to how you feel when you're on the field wearing something you like.
Mm-hmm. How does it make you feel as a fan whenever you feel like management has responded to something that fans are really clamoring for?
I mean, great, especially this year. So the Mets brought back the black jerseys a couple of years ago, and they made them the Friday night thing, which is cool. I grew up as a child going to Mets games on Friday nights. That was always the ticket my dad would get. We'd go to those games together. A lot of times back when I was a child, they would be wearing those jerseys on Friday nights. I was like, this is nostalgia. I like how they look. The lights are on. We're in New York City at night. This is fun. And then there was another instance of this season, which was the Mets responding specifically to fan clamoring. And that was when they installed their patch. That was the big story last offseason, the advertisement patches on the jerseys. And they had a big New York Presbyterian patch on the jersey. New York Presbyterian is branded in red and white. So there was a big red and white patch on either a white, a black, or a blue jersey. And people were like, why? I got to say, heck, for Nick, so he doesn't jump in and hit us with the profanity button. But why the heck are the Mets on the blue, white, or black jersey wearing a patch that's red and white? And eventually, after a few weeks, they actually did change the patch to bring in Mets colors. And I was like, oh, this is really cool that the response, because it did look foolish, is being answered.
Well, it was the size of a pizza box, right? I mean,
Yeah,
it was not only was it red and
boxes.
white, it was like huge. And so, yeah.
It definitely affected our mobility. And then, again, it didn't really work for the Mets this year. The bad year. Another team who brought back retro jersey this year also didn't work very well. Also, I think a superior jersey is the California Angels. And the Angels are probably in the process of needing a rebrand on the field, off the field, around everything. But that's another team where like there's an era of like success there, and also just like a cool looking jersey. Like you're the Angels, and you just have the word Angels. Now you have the word Angels, but you have a halo over the A. Like, oh, those are the Angels. Like this is a cool piece of apparel that I'm sure all fans would prefer to get their hands on than a very basic red and white jersey.
Anything that upgrades a uniform is like cool, but there's also just this line between the classics and innovation. And I'm not sure that all teams walk that equally well.
Do you have an example you're thinking of there for someone?
Well, you know, I don't want to get ahead of us, but the City Connect strike me as the next place to sort of really play that out, right? But like I have read, they're updating. They're going to update all of the uniforms this year. I believe the letters are smaller, the players' names are smaller, and then the way that they're handling the lettering across the front of the jersey and where they break the letters out. The example that the article used was the Dodgers, and it's going to be really distracting, I think. Oh, they've made, I think that jersey, it's like narrower now. And I think that's maybe the average fan won't notice, but I think it's the kind of thing where you're like, why are you messing with something that's working?
Apparently the Mets.
Yeah, I think a lot of the improvements are, you know, you shouldn't really improve something, or you shouldn't really change something unless you're going to improve it. And so many of these change, I mean, I kind of haven't seen any change with the uniforms that, in my opinion, has improved it in any way. Like, you know, in every case, it's kind of, they're just changing stuff to make it worse. Yeah, especially, you know, I know what you're saying with the Dodgers, like, you know, they're breaking the letter in like the middle of the letter now. Like it was, you know, intentionally designed, you know, size wise to break at a visually appealing place. And just to kind of try to standardize everything, like, I don't understand, like, you know, why they need to do that. It's just making everything look worse.
The Mets are doing something similar. It might just be like that Nike's changing all these jerseys, which is why these changes happen kind of wholesale now every year. But I mentioned the black jerseys. Originally, the black jerseys were the word Mets and then players' numbers with a white outline, and then blue and orange, and then some blue like stripes, some blue flare coming down the jerseys and on the sleeves. And they took away the blue flare. I was like, okay, you know, royal blue and black, apart from the Mariner City Connect, like that's a weird color combination there. But now this year they're making another adjustment where they're taking away now the white. So now it's just blue and orange straight on top of black, where it's like, I don't know. This is like, I don't know, it's like
both
Halloween.
Changes made it worse each time. I mean,
literally every single time
they'll change it next year and make it even worse. So
next year it's just gonna be orange and black. I mean, that's Halloween.
Yep.
But it's just bizarre. We go year after year. You're like, why do you guys keep changing this stuff? Stop tinkering.
And before we leave the retro stuff, like the Rays got theirs out again this year, right? The old Devil Rays one. Those rule. So those are just cool.
So cool.
I think.
I know. I understand too where they came from, because they wanted to like leave an organization in disarray in the past by like branding from Devil Rays to Rays. But that being said, that Devil Rays jersey with like the yellow and purple highlights, and you got like the old Wade Boggs stuff, like that is a cool jersey. It's a shame the team was so awful when they wore those, because that's one I could like. That's a jersey I visualize in like the NLDS, the ALDS, the ALCS, the World Series. Like you have to kind of think about when you're going to wear these jerseys. I think now transition to City Connect is kind of funny with those, because like I could never picture like a big PGH on a team's uniform, like in their biggest game of the season, like the way the Pirates one is. So it's funny how some of these have went so like phantasmic, and some of them so basic, and there's like, it's weird and hard to find the middle ground with them.
The City Connects, like there's sort of a fan Rorschach test, right? What people like and what people don't like is a really interesting, like I really adore the Orioles, and in that I am in the minority. And so I guess I would ask you all, what are some of your favorite City Connects? And then we can talk about what some of the less good ones are.
So my favorite is the Nationals, by far, honestly. It's just a great design and concept, totally original. You know, I like that they kind of they had a little bit more freedom, where they weren't so tied to, you know, a built up brand or legacy where they can kind of go outside of the box, and it works great for them. I think that those uniforms are unlike anything in baseball and unlike kind of anything in sports, honestly, and just A plus.
Yeah, especially pulling the local flair of the cherry blossom. And I think there is a unique distinction though with these City Connect jerseys. And I argue about this with like friends and other people a lot, where it's like, am I interpreting the jersey itself, or am I interpreting the uniform as the players wear it on the field? Because in terms of jersey, I love the Rocky City Connect jersey. The Rocky City Connect jersey with the mountains in the background, I think is phenomenal. Same with the Astros Space City with like the color gradient of some orange and then some navy blue. But then the Rockies and the Astros specifically, when you bring it down, and now I'm wearing green pants on the baseball field and I'm wearing a navy blue jumpsuit as the Astros. I'm like, why'd you guys put those colors together? Like, it's baseball. We should be wearing white or gray pants. I think it's funny that I referenced the Mariners before wearing royal blue and black. Like, who's putting these colors together? Whose ideas were these?
So just so you know, the Rockies. So whenever Chad Kuhl was pitching with the Rockies, was the first year they had their City Connects, and he took a picture of himself wearing his white pants with the green jersey. And he's like, this is how we should do this uniform. And it kind of took off. So the Rockies sort of did this middle path. For day games, they wore the white pants. On certain nights, they wore the white pants with the green City Connects. And then other days, they wore the green ones. I should have looked it up, but I didn't. I have to say, I'm a Rockies fan, but as somebody who lives in Wyoming, really hate the Rockies City Connects, because it's like, at the time they came out, Dick Monfort was like, we represent the region and this is how we're going to do it. And I thought, you totally don't understand how the rest of the region feels about Colorado drivers, because we have feelings about that. And they're a little cluttered for me, right? I don't think the hat goes with the jersey. So lots of people, I'm in the minority here, but it's not my favorite.
Yeah, the Rockies have nothing in the Tetons either as a mountain range go. But
well, I'm not going to get in that fight with them, but there we go.
Of course. Another one that's very divisive that I personally love, I think most of the world hates, mostly because it's so strange and random seeming, of the Red Sox. And it's funny that the Red Sox City Connect jersey, in a couple of years where they've been so paltry as a team, they play exceptionally when they wear them, which is such a bizarre and funny distinction which plays along with this. But do you guys have any opinions on the Red Sox UCLA themed City Connect jerseys?
I'm going to defer to Kenny first.
I definitely appreciate what they're trying to do, and I like that they tried to kind of go outside the box with it. But for me, this is kind of one case where it doesn't make sense to really depart from they have such a strong brand and strong heritage, and it just seems a little out there for them, to be honest. I'm not a fan.
I'm with Kenny. The idea, idea, awesome. Execution, not so good. And I'm with Kenny. They've just got this really clear brand and way that they go. And then the Cities Connect show up and you're like, wait, is this the same baseball team? Because I'm not getting it here.
Like with some teams, it makes sense, I think, to kind of go completely outside the box like the Nationals did. I think that's a very successful example. But yeah, the Red Sox are just, I don't know. It doesn't feel right.
That's funny. I love the fact
they don't have black pants. So
yeah, no, thankfully, yeah, it's a yellow jersey with some yellow outlines, some white pants. That's a good looking baseball uniform. Another one that is probably a little more out there, but I think does a really good job of like capturing the vibe of the team is the White Sox, and that one might be, I was talking before, my favorite top to bottom uniform. It does look a little strange with the black and the white pinstripes, but it's like anti-Yankees, but it says South Side on it, which gives it a feel like a texture to what the team is and the organization. That's one I think I appreciate maybe more than the conglomerate.
So I think that's a good example of a nice design that's, it's a fresh look, but it stays true to the original uniform and brand. I kind of I would have liked to see the Red Sox go more towards that direction, because you can still make something, unique and cool, but the White Sox have heritage and a very strong uniform that you can kind of play off that a little bit without completely abandoning it.
All right, so on a similar ilk, Kenny, Renee, both of you, what do you think about the Marlins jerseys? Paying homage
Big
to
fan.
Yeah,
huge fan. When I did my early ranking, it's got historical significance. It looks good. The Marlins just do uniforms, as far as I'm concerned.
Basically, the only thing to do. But Ken, you like them as well?
They're number 3 for me, and number 2 is the Astros.
Okay, what's your number 1?
Nationals.
Okay, yeah, you said before. Yeah, Nationals one is it's so good looking. If they again, that's
Mhm.
one that would be woefully ruined if they wore gray pants. If that was like
Yep.
if it was a gray jersey with gray pants, it would just be like, oh my god, why is a smudge running to first base right now? But as far as any other ones that you guys like that we haven't mentioned, do any come to mind?
I'm going to put in a plug for the D-backs, and I didn't get it until I went to Phoenix. And whenever I went to Phoenix, it was like, well, yes, of course. And I don't know why. When I saw it, it just didn't work for me. And after I went to Phoenix, and I sort of said, oh, well, this fits it. I get it now. It's just real minimal, and it fits with where they are in their community. And I think that D-backs is an undervalued little gem.
I'm glad I'm not in the minority with that, because I love those jerseys as well. It's just, I'm a big fan of minimal design, and just, they're clean. They're definitely a complete departure from, their current look and everything. But I think they work real well.
And when Zach Gallen pulls out his snakeskin belt, that's how you do it.
It's almost cultural appropriation, being that Zach Gallen's from New Jersey. But well, I guess we'll let it slide just for the team dynamic there. But any of you guys really don't like that stick out to you? No, we've mentioned a few, but any others that we have not mentioned?
So I've told you what I think about the Rockies. I'm going to throw out another controversial take. I absolutely loathe the Rangers. I think the Rangers uniforms are a hot mess. I think there's too much going on. They're trying to touch all these bases, and it's just confusing. It's like a text that's too full. It's like, where do I even start to interpret this artifact?
What I do appreciate about the Rangers one, though, is they created an animal. So they've got the Peagle. I mean, that's kind of that bumps them up a few spots for me.
That's true. In terms of fantasy rankings, the Rangers might be number one. One that I hate that I don't know. Sometimes I think it's met with criticism, but can't really tell. Padres. I can't stand the Padres jerseys. I think they're strange. It's a colorway that I don't even think fits the team, the region, the vibe around the organization. It's just the whole thing was a weird fit. And they look like almost like as if like a 9-year-old had an MLB The Show franchise and was designing a jersey, and that's kind of what they go out and wear with those.
What I appreciate about the Padres ones, though, is like they didn't play it safe at all. They're definitely the most wild jerseys in baseball, and I respect them for that. But they are kind of ridiculous.
It's like the Miami Vice uniform, and you're like, okay, I'm trying really hard to make this one work because it has all the things that should make me go, oh, this is awesome, and it's not working for me. But I like how the Padres embrace it and own it and celebrate it and have a great time with it. But I'm going to put in 2 for disappointing. I expected better from the Dodgers and the Cubs, because the Dodgers and the Cubs do uniforms, and I think their City Connects are just hospital scrubs. It's like, what are we doing here?
Lots of blue.
So much blue.
Brewers as well. The concept of let's have a nickname, the Brew Crew, but then it's just baby blue top to bottom. Oh. And then there's another couple ones that I thought had so much potential, but they kind of just ruined it with, like we were talking about earlier, like a strange tweak or an unnecessary move. Was the Braves, who kind of took their old alternate jersey, the white with the blue sleeves, and it has a big A on the breast. But I'm like, oh, that's a cool jersey. Then it just says the A. I'm like, why did you have to put that word there? It really botches the whole thing for me. And then same with the Angels. They went the whole California Surfer Angels jersey vibe, but a big diamond where the player's number will now appear, like on the ribcage. Where it's like, that's just such an unnecessary design. You just add it to this.
Yeah, the Braves one, it's not that they're bad. It's just it's a worse version of the throwback jerseys that they were wearing the year before. It goes back to that point where it's like, I feel like a lot of things are just, they're changing it, but not for the better. My 3 least favorite of the City Connects are definitely Dodgers, Giants, and I'm sorry, Renee, but Orioles. The Dodgers one is just an example of playing it. For the Orioles?
Yeah.
All right. So I think it's an interesting concept, but it's kind of a poor execution. It's, like the attempt to be conceptual, like it's still, I like the whole theme of having all this unique color and everything kind of hidden underneath like the sleeves and everything. But at the end of the day, everybody's just looking at an extremely basic uniform. It would have been cool to kind of go, a little bit, utilize that pattern and everything a little bit more visibly. I just think it's way too it could have been great if it was executed better.
I get what you're saying. I just think you can't. Well, I shouldn't say you can't go wrong with black because I really don't care for what the Reds did, but it worked. It worked for me.
I do like that's a bit understated, but Maryland as a state is just so obsessed with that, like obscure colorways on the ends of their sleeves. Maryland football does the same thing. That's where Under Armour was invented. And they always push that exact kind of stuff where it's like, we're going to give you a lot of color in a very small amount of space. But I agree with you. I think, again, that's one where like, oh, the jersey's coolish. Like, I'd like to wear a black jersey, but this double black, I'm like, it's just too much. It's way too much. I'm trying to think if there's anything we missed that we didn't talk about.
So, Kenny, you mentioned the Giants, which I also think is awful, but I'm really curious from somebody who does what you do, what you see there.
I think that there were so many cool concepts or paths they could have explored with, the region or the team's history or something. Like, that would be like the last way to go is like fog. And the way that they did it too is just like, I don't know. I think I could bump them to the bottom.
Yeah.
Of the worst City Connects.
I tend to agree with that. So, Kenny, now we're going to have some more City Connect jerseys debuting this year, of course. The Mets are the first team that has been leaked that they're going to debut theirs in April. Some rumors about that, but nothing concrete. And then apart from them, we still have the Blue Jays, the Cardinals, the Guardians, the Phillies, the Rays, Tigers, and Twins without one. And apparently the Yankees, who have allegedly opted out of City Connect, which is the most Yankee storyline ever. But if you had to pick one of those teams I mentioned, I can repeat them for you if you want, and you were to say to put together like a very rudimentary mock design for a City Connect jersey, like where do you think you would go?
I'm going to go listen to Kenny first because Kenny does this professionally.
Yeah. On the spot.
I'm not sure. I mean, I'm kind of excited to see where the Rays go, honestly, because of how well their throwbacks are. I think that there's a lot of cool ways it could go there, and I'm not sure. I'm curious as if how much the Mets one is just going to be like another revision of the black jerseys, or if they're going to do something completely different. Or have you heard anything about that, one or the other?
They are. I know the date that they said they're going to be unveiled. It happens to be a Friday night, so it does seem like there's like a little bit of rumor going into the fact that they could be a black jersey. And there's been rumors for years that the Mets are going to try to invoke more of something like Queens or Flushing in the jersey, like talk about more rather than New York, like the actual borough in the area they play in, which I think would be cool because I think the Mets do represent like Queens in a specific way. But I'm a little bit excited about the fact that the Guardians have one, because this could be a chance for them to show like a new brand, because there's been, I don't know, I feel like they haven't really pushed the guard, like, I don't know, they push the name a lot and they push new jerseys and the hats, but I feel like this could be their first chance to like really put a stamp on this is their new team, this is their new brand, like this is what they will be moving forward now indefinitely.
I'm most excited to see the Cardinals. For me, the Cardinals are like the Yankees and the Mets and the Dodgers and the Cubs. They've just got a really strong brand and a really solid design history. So I'm really curious to see what they do with that. And I hope that, I don't know if you saw this, they had emo night last there was this Cardinal who was all emoed up. It was like, if anybody has one of those t-shirts that's like the best t-shirt ever, I would hope that they would bring back something with emo night, but I have a feeling that's not going to be what they do.
I can't see the organization going in that way, given the rest of what they do otherwise. But the Phillies also have a lot of potential because their royal blue, not the royal, but their powder blue retros are such a nice jersey. And that's sacrilege for me to say as a Mets fan, but I do have such an appreciation for what that colorway is. Like just seeing old like highlights and shots of Mike Schmidt and like Letty Dykstra rocking that jersey. It's one of my favorite retros I think I've ever seen. But I would never ever wear it in a million years.
We all have to have our standards, James. James, what do you hope the Mets do?
I think that would be cool to have a variation of the black jersey, maybe with just more of a splash of design. Again, I want to see Flushing. I want to see Queens. I think that'd be cool. I think there's some people are talking about orange. And if the Mets go out wearing orange pants and an orange jersey, I'll probably just totally protest that and never go to a game when I know they're going to wear them. But I think there's a lot of potential but they wear black so much. I think something else that limits what we talked about before, the use of the retro jerseys the last few years, is MLB's 4+1 rule, where you get a home jersey, a road jersey, and then your two alternates. And I think that, and then you get the +1 if you have your City Connect. So I think that it would almost be foolish for the Mets to be like, now we have one alternate, we can change something up. Like they've had blue jerseys in the past too that people have liked, and to have 2 black jerseys as 2 of your alternates, it'd just be like, I don't know. I feel like to me that would be a little redundant, but the fans love them so much they could definitely see that's where they head.
You think something Statue of Liberty green, maybe?
I don't know. I don't think so. The Statue of Liberty and Citi Field are so far away, it's almost comical. You would need, I don't know, if you had a high-speed boat, maybe it's the quickest way to get there. If you go like around the peninsula and then through Rockaway Beach to New Jersey, but it's I really want them to focus on the borough, something like that. I know the Mets have done a great job the last few years too of bringing in more like local vendors to have more of a Queens feel in the ballpark. So it feels like everything's pushing that way, but I'm just gonna hold my breath until I actually see it. Let's see. Any other ones that you guys think here could have a little potential for some fun, or someone you think is just maybe going to royally screw it up?
You know what? I never know what to expect from Toronto. So I hope Toronto does something interesting and fun and Canadian.
That's true. Cool logo too. A lot of potential for just like putting a big bird on there, which I think the Orioles might have missed.
I wanted to go back onto the that rule where you can only have a certain number of jerseys, which I think is just kind of dumb. Like, you know, especially when you got teams like the Rangers and the Phillies and they have to eliminate their red jerseys now. Like, it seems weird. It seems weird that the Phillies are not going to have an option to wear a red jersey. You know,
I mean, I think that's just part of where MLB is and how they handle a lot of what they handle, where it's just things get very tight and they don't allow a lot of I don't know, proliferation of fun in a way. But same with things like cleats and gloves and stuff too. One of the coolest storylines like that happened this year was Kodai Senga and the Mets like really diving into the Ghost Fork. Again, you had a great shirt for Kodai Senga that he very proudly wore, which was really cool. And he was rocking the glove with the ghost and the fork on it, a logo that was made for him. And I was like, I like these players like showing their personality like this. Like Jazz Chisholm, I think he's one of my favorite guys too in the league because he will always match everything he can. New gloves, new cleats, and everything. He had the teal glove he wore when they wore the teal jersey. He had red cleats he would wear when they wore the Sugar Canes jerseys. Like that is like the way that these players I feel like can become like bigger stars and grow this game in a way that's accessible for this next generation is to, like have that kind of flair and have that kind of fun stuff. And Kenny, I think a lot of that is kind of now where you come in. We can transition this conversation into what you do building your company and kind of finding these areas and this your creative process here to what kind of apparel you're going to make and then how eventually it will do.
So I really don't plan much out. Most of just, the shirts I make, a lot of them I just make the night before I put them out. I have absolutely no background in business or apparel or anything like this. My background is in design. And so, I've been doing design for a while, but, kind of on boring stuff up until I started Rotowear. And for me, Rotowear was just, it was a passion project. It was a way for me to kind of work on design stuff that I actually, enjoy and kind of care about. And it was kind of like a pipe dream. And it was just something I started on the side. I was still working full time and everything. And it just kind of, it took off, little by little. And about a year and a half, 2 years after I started, I wound up quitting my day job and started doing this full time. But like, I still kind of, I try to never run it like, like a typical business or anything like that. I've kept it super small, like intentionally. I don't have any aspiration to try to, be the next Fanatics or grow, honestly, beyond where I'm at right now, just because there's never a time where I'm trying to put out shirts to make sales. I don't even think about it like that. Like for me, it just, I'm trying to make cool designs that like, the players or fans will enjoy and wear. And that's worth way more to me than any sort of, sales or growth of company or anything like that. So that's the most rewarding thing for me is seeing the players wear the shirts on the fields, seeing fans post pictures wearing the shirts on Twitter and stuff. Like that's, doesn't get better than that.
What was your first oh snap moment, like this is real, whether it be real for like this can become like my life and my job, or whether this is real like I can't believe this person is wearing my shirt?
Probably the Aaron Judge wearing the Air Aria shirt that I did because I was still working full time at that point, and I'm a Yankee fan, so like I didn't even know he had the shirt. It was just like I basically saw somebody posted on Twitter and started getting a bunch of text messages. It was like surreal. And then basically like when I kind of was like, all right, now it's time, I got to quit the day job and try to do this full time, was Max Muncy wearing the Go Get It Out of the Ocean shirt.
That was
and that was within a span of maybe a couple months from one another. So that was like that whole time for me was just kind of, I mean, even now, every time I see, a player wear a shirt or anything, it's just like, I can't believe it.
I think that was my favorite one of your shirts that I've ever seen, to Go Get It Out of the Ocean. Remember, because that was such like a social media phenomenon at the time too, and those two teams, those players hated each other, and just like put on a shirt, I was like, that's really cool.
How do you get your ideas, Kenny? How do you know, oh, this one is interesting?
I don't know. It just pops into my head. Like, and a lot of times, like, I don't really ever try to set out and say like, all right, I want to make a shirt specifically for this player or about this thing. It's just, if I don't think of a good idea for something, I just don't even try to make a shirt about it. And like, because I'm so small, I'm very limited. So it's like, I don't even have the capability to do more than a handful of shirts in a given week type of thing. So it's not, I'm not trying to make a million shirts, but just kind of the ones where it's like, oh man, I got to make that shirt and run with those.
Have you had players or organizations themselves reach out to you about a certain shirt or a certain design, whether it be a good thing or a bad thing, maybe that you're to kind of step on toes?
Yeah. No, it's cool. It's mostly good things. I've had definitely a lot of players and management place orders and stuff, and I do all the packing and shipping too. So it's just like, oh man, like this person ordered the shirt and back in the order. And
is that your whole inventory right behind you right there?
This is some of it. This is just my entire house is just full of bins of t-shirts.
So do you have like a fan base that is like, okay, this is a fan base that buys a lot of my stuff?
Yeah, I've got a couple. Well, I'm a Yankee fan, so like I'm always gonna be making Yankee related shirts. But pretty much the Dodgers, because of basically which started with that Max Muncy thing. Ever since then, he and a lot of other players on the team have like always worn the shirts, which just encourages me to want to make more cool stuff for them. The Braves are probably my biggest fan base, and that's just because players and fans have constantly supported for years now. And Padres are probably up there too. Padres, ever since Manny went there, he was wearing the Preller shirt, and just Tatis is wearing the shirts basically ever since he got called up. So it's one of those things where it's like I see them wearing the shirts all the time, so it's like I just want to make more cool ones for them.
Does it ever get like, I don't know, have you become like numb to the fact that these world-class athletes are wearing these shirts that you made in your house and you see them on television doing
Not
it
at
on
all.
social media?
Every time I see it, it's the coolest thing ever.
That's funny. The Dodgers one's funny too, because I could understand why they would take to you so much, because I'm like, oh, this guy's in our corner. Like he's saying something that was good for us and bad for them. Have you ever found that maybe the opposite of that like some people, because I'm sure Madison Bumgarner can be a bit of a vindictive individual, but have people spurned you for the opposite of that when you kind of made a shirt going against them?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. And it's kind of one of those things too, especially with like, the fan bases and players that, have kind of helped me, get to where I'm at. Like there's just certain teams or players, like I'm not gonna, make a dish shirt on or anything like that. And fan bases of other teams get kind of upset about that, but it is what it is. It's the one thing that's cool about kind of keeping, the company the way I run it is like, I don't have somebody, from management or saying like you have to make this because this will sell, or like, I mean, there have been teams that have won the World Series that I just don't like, that I just haven't made any shirts for. But
there's no point in being self-employed and your own boss if you can't make decisions like that.
Exactly.
That's just how it is.
No, it's like, you want to be biased. I am biased. This company is mine. I'm going to be biased.
Yep.
I heard. Have there ever been situations where you could kind of maybe like foretell the future, maybe grasp information that isn't public based on seeing shirts go off the rack for you, foresee moves, foresee, I don't know,
Definitely.
anything.
And a lot of that actually like stems from just, fantasy baseball, honestly. Just, like the attention that you need to pay to the sport if you're playing in competitive leagues like that is just, you're very tuned in. So like you can kind of have a pretty good idea of like, all right, this pitcher is going to come up from the minors and he's going to get into a rotation, or somebody gets hurt, he's going to have a real opportunity, and I might have like kind of idea for a shirt already just kind of sketched out, where like, all right, well, if this player was ever in the spotlight or anything, I already have the idea kind of written down. Yeah, I think there's been quite a few just or trades or things that like I've had a pretty good guess, a few days beforehand.
Do you have
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, you can go on. I'm going to change the subject a little bit.
Do you have your Jackson Holiday design ready to go?
Maybe. So I'm not allowed to put anything out until the player accrues a day of service time. So that's like with Senga, I had that shirt done maybe 3 months prior to opening day, but I had to wait until then to put it out. Same thing with Volpe, same thing with Yamamoto. Like I've got stuff with Yamamoto already approved, but I have to wait until he accrues a day of service time until I can release it.
Where does that rule come from?
MLBPA.
Wow, that's interesting. So you can't do a minor league shirt, can't.
No, like they'll, I can maybe show them, my idea for a design prior to, and then, once he's called up and accrues the service time, they'll at least have approved the design part already. But yeah.
Do you have a design or a shirt or a concept that never made it to the public that you just love and wish it had?
Yeah, actually I do. So James Paxton was one of the first players to ever kind of, throw me a shout out, wear the shirts or whatnot. So when he went back to Seattle, I had like a really cool Big Maple shirt done, and I was like waiting for basically like after his first start to put it out, and he wound up getting injured during that game, so I never released it.
Oh, damn. That's a shame.
But there's a handful. There's definitely probably a handful of good designs that just never saw the light of day. But yeah, maybe they'll come out one day.
Yeah. Were there any that you were kind of just making just because of some passion or just like a stroke of luck, where you're like, this probably won't really sell, or won't really do very well, and it wound up exploding?
Those are usually the ones that sell well. Some of the ones that I'll spend days drawing or working on or whatever, like they might, and I want them loving the design and stuff, they might not sell at all. And just sometimes I'll throw something together in a half hour and just kind of just as like a joke type of thing, and like they've blown up. So I don't even try to like think about that when I'm working on design or anything, like, oh, is this going to sell or not? Like if it sells, it sells. The internet will decide, and that's it. And like yeah, because I'd probably be wrong 95% of the time.
It's a numbers game. Start throwing them out there. Take shots.
Yeah.
Renee, I know you wanted to ask Kenny about specifically women's apparel, and some outlets not really offering as much as so many people would like in that regard.
This is less specific to Kenny because the nature of the t-shirt is it sort of fits everybody, right? But I was looking, whenever you try to order jerseys, companies really limit what women can buy. I looked at the Rockies and the D-backs, and you can only buy a purple pinstripe jersey and select a player's name for the back of it or your own. You can only buy a City Connect with Charlie Blackmon or blank. And it just seems to me like they need to be a little more thoughtful about how they market women's apparel, because not all women want pink everything. I don't know. So I always appreciate manufacturers who are thinking about audiences who are not just men when it comes to sports apparel.
Side note, whose jersey on the Rockies would you even want to purchase?
You know what? Here, you heard it here first. Nolan Jones and Ezekiel Tovar are going to be dudes. You heard it here first.
Nolan Jones might already be a dude.
Yeah.
Well, he's really, he's just a great athlete, and he is an incredible interview. He's always extraordinarily honest. He doesn't do cliches, and he's got the goods. Nolan Jones is going to be a guy, I think. And Tovar too.
Bring it back here. We got like 10 minutes left in here before Nick gives us the hook. Back to where we kind of started this conversation with retro jerseys. Do you each have a favorite retro jersey that you want to just gush about for a minute or two here?
Go ahead, Kenny.
I don't think we spent enough time talking about how good the Angels jersey, their retro jersey is. Like, that's just one of the best. That logo is like one of the best logos in all of sports. And the fact that it's, not their primary is a crime, in my opinion, especially when their current uniforms are just so boring. I don't know why they would ever depart from that. Like, and I think, unfortunately, it's true with like a lot of the current jerseys is in many cases, the retro one is superior.
Yeah, almost like across the board, like we've been talking about. It's shocking.
I've spent more time thinking about the D-backs, and I just don't get tired of it. I love the purple. I love the teal. I love the vest. I love what it means.
The off-white.
And the cream. Yeah, that was something that Christian Walker said as well. And it's like, why? I mean, my understanding is that it's manufacturing constraints that have baseball teams limiting uniforms in the way that.
But they're MLB. They shouldn't be having manufacturing constraints. Like
I'm with you.
Billion-dollar conglomerate.
Yeah.
I will tell you this. I do know when the Rockies first got their City Connects, the green pants were late getting in, and it was a manufacturing issue.
Blessing in disguise.
And you're like,
yeah.
Well, we didn't know it then. And it was like, really? You're like a baseball team. And that's how it went. But I don't understand why MLB, I think they're trying to overcome some of that with the City Connects. And you're like, yeah, but the retros people have an emotional connection to. And I just don't think you respect that enough. So I have to say, even though it's the most Yankee things ever not to have a City Connect, I got to tell you, I think I would have nightmares thinking about a Yankee City Connect because I think it's just not who they are.
I almost feel the same way about the Cardinals too, which is why I don't know. I could see them because I don't think everyone's going to get one. I think there's rule 4 or 6 or something like that per year, and there's I think 8 or 9 teams that still have yet to do it. So it's like I don't know. I don't know if they finish out the string, and that's why it was so funny. Like we talked about before too, like the Red Sox like jumping on it, doing the first one, and making it so bizarre because like there's so much traditionalism here, and like you can really kind of botch it in an easy way.
I think the White Sox are a perfect example, though, of how you can take a team that's kind of, or a uniform that's like rich in tradition and do a very good, fresh execution of it. I would kind of look at their City Connect as like the benchmark of what you could do with, without going completely outside the box as you would with like the Nationals or the Padres. But that would be funny if they have the person that did the Padres jersey do the Yankees City Connect.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think
gosh.
George Steinbrenner roll over in his grave.
The other thing about the White Sox is it fit in with their home run celebration, right? I mean, we didn't talk about home run celebrations, but really the home run celebration is sort of an extension of the jersey and the uniform and the character of the team, And so, the fedora, the gangster coat, that's cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. Another team I think is exciting to have one is the Tigers because the Tigers are an ascendant team right now. And they're a team where you kind of feel like if one thing breaks right, another thing breaks right, like suddenly they're in a better position they've been in what seems like a decade since the old David Price, Max Scherzer, Justin Verlander days. And Detroit's another place, rich in tradition right now. The Lions are in their game away from the Super Bowl for the first time since the text message was invented. Like this is it could be a really ascendant time for the whole city. I think they have a big opportunity with a team with fun, young, exciting players to do something cool with that as well.
Yes. And they're tigers. Well, you can do lots with that.
Yeah, the animals. Yeah, wish these more lean into the animals. These are cool animals you guys have as your logos. Like use them. I want to see an Oriole. The Orioles I think they had a jersey back when, an orange one. Maybe it was spring training, but such a cool jersey. Also, spring training jerseys are cool too. I used to love that. I had an old Mets jersey, like the royal blue with the orange leathering. It was a Darryl Strawberry. I'm like, this is a cool jersey. And I have an old Barry Bonds, old Pirates jersey. The pullover jersey, similar to the vest, is also something that's totally gone. But as a fan wearing a jersey, I've always felt like that was a more comfortable jersey to wear because it feels more like I'm just dressed regularly rather than I'm wearing this like strange garb that I'm buttoning in the middle of here with short sleeves and it's polyester. I don't know. I've always loved the pullovers and the old look of them, like 70s, 80s, 90s.
That's surprising to hear that you said that they're eliminating vests across the board.
Gone, no more.
The Rockies were the last ones, and the Rockies haven't worn them they didn't wear them at all last year. And so
none. And also the Rockies purple vest was cool. That's a cool jersey. And Todd Helton just made the Hall of Fame. Like that's the jersey I think about when I think about Todd Helton. Like that was his look. That was that whole team's vibe. I was like, why are you getting rid of that? Like that's the richest thing you have.
One of the things, the pitchers some of the pitchers that I talked to really like the vest because they like to pitch at them because it frees. They don't have the sleeve going over. So there's less stuff going on there. And so it was, I wish baseball had more respect for the game.
Nice. Just throwing a dagger out there. Last 5 minutes here.
For the clothes. How's that? For the apparel. How's that? Sorry.
We just definitely
start with. What would you do with the patch, I guess, with the vet? Maybe that's why they got rid of it.
Oh, that probably is exactly why they got rid of it.
Oh, you're right.
There we go. Investigative reporting.
The patches are just an abomination, but I'll bet you're absolutely right because where would you put the patch?
Yeah, nowhere to put it. Wow, I didn't even think about that. Oh my God, I'm excited to see some more of those patches this year. That was so funny that was such a big...
I'm glad that the Mets changed the color to at least match the jersey because that was the one thing where it's like, like the Padres. The Padres have like that giant Motorola patch, but like it doesn't look bad because it's in the team colors.
Yeah,
I think that makes such a huge difference.
And it does offer a strange decision for the company too, because if I'm being branded in advertising, I like to be branded the things I like chose to be branded in, which is like the colors that my logo are. So it's weird, but it's like I don't know. Like, are you gonna have to start matching brands based on the teams, the colors that they coincide with? Like, it's a complicated issue that again, as a company, I would be upset if that happened. I would just be like, why'd you do this? Like, why'd you take away my colors? This is my logo. But it just looks bad. I don't want a jersey looking bad. And this is gonna be part of our future in baseball. So there's almost no way around it.
I mean, as a fan, I just wind up automatically hating every company that has the patch. So it has the opposite effect on me.
The Cardinals have those gorgeous jerseys, and then they've got a patch on the side that's for a concrete company, right? And you're like, oh my gosh, guys.
I like on paper, I kind of like the idea of the Yankees, not getting the city connect, but it's kind of hard to claim that logic when you now have a patch on the jersey and you're altering the road jersey. It's just, you kind of can't claim that you want to keep everything, the same and because of tradition when you are making changes and alterations to the jersey.
Yeah, at least have some fun when you're going to screw up tradition a little bit. Enjoy yourself. Give a designer a chance. Also, I fear that we're just barreling towards a world where it's like European soccer jerseys where the advertisement is the jersey and you kind of just forget about it. You only it's so ingrained in that sport, like you don't even notice it anymore. And like Emirates, I'm trying to think of the AC Milan one. Oh, I don't know, but it's just it's there and you can't really avoid it at some point. And it's like I hope that this isn't like step one, the gateway drug to that.
It would be bad. This is not NASCAR.
Could be one day.
Yeah, I unfortunately think that it is going to probably go in that direction. It's just there's money, It's unfortunately that's going to make a lot of people's decisions easy.
So, Kenny, can you give us any hints about what's coming? What kind of drops we can expect from Rotowear?
I don't know. I got a couple of designs that are already done, but a lot of it is just kind of. I don't know. A lot of the designs, it's like I wake up that day and just have an idea and design it. That's one of the good things that about being small and being the one that actually designs the shirts. It's like I don't have to, hire somebody or wait on somebody else to execute the design work. So yeah, I'll definitely have stuff coming. It's nice. This time of year is actually kind of like my break.
Yeah,
because of by November I'm just fried. So.
Being that
just waiting. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, being at that, you've been at this for a few years now. What's your shirt that's had the most staying power, the most like longevity?
Probably a lot of the stuff that I do that's not necessarily, team related or player related. Even like I've got a collection of shirts that are just kind of, baseball lifestyle or culture inspired. Which is good because a lot of them they never go out, they're evergreen for the most part. Where sometimes, a player might say a quote, but after a couple weeks or a month, it's just not as relevant, or the player could get traded or hurt or something. So it's nice to have a mix, I think, of designs that are topical and some that are just timeless.
You have an example of one of those?
So like the numbers game one, where it's basically like the numbers of the positions on a field, just on a shirt, super simple, or like in play runs.
Yeah, I like that one too. That one and the one with all the advanced stats listed, like the X-Woba, the swing striker.
Yeah.
Those are funny ones. Yeah, and that's like a good thing where you see someone is at the game with that shirt, you're like, all right, nice stats guy. Yeah,
that was the most wild thing for me. Is like the first time I saw someone, like a stranger at a game wearing the shirt. It was just
that was crazier than players.
That too, but also it's in person, so it's
Do you tell them? Do you say, "Hey, I did that"? Sure. Do you want me to sign
sometimes somebody else will or something, but like it's. I went up to a couple of people at spring training once that I saw wearing the shirts, but a lot of times it's just kind of just cool to see for me. Like,
yeah. And what's even their response? Like, hey, I made your shirt. They're like, cool. Thanks.